Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Hopefully everybody doing okay tonight. Let me give up my other image real quick while people rolling in. A lot of people know I'm from Indiana. We'll give a shout out to the Indiana Hoosiers. Hoosiers, national champs. Shout out to us. I almost went there. Shout out to IU. Appreciate the ones. Let me hit this little drink, and we're going to be off and running. Shout out to the LinkedIn user. Thanks for joining me. Talk about that NIST AI 600-1. Everybody's going to AI. Shout out to Regina. Thanks for joining us. You know how we do it. Put in your questions, tech or cybersecurity. Shout out to Excel Pro. Thanks for joining. Get this in there. We're going to get on. Who's yours? Shout out to the IU football team. Shout out to Kiki and Jasmine joining us from over the seas. Appreciate it. Cut my music off. That always annoys me when I'm trying to listen. Shout out to the old people. So yeah, I gotta get with my man Chris. I gotta get better music, better beats. Nah, appreciate everybody for joining me. We're gonna hit that. Facts. They are not happy. They talk about suing the NCAA. I think they're gonna expand the tournament though. They should join the conference though and stop being crybabies. Once again, shout out to the LinkedIn users. Hello from New York. Let's go and get rolling. So again, we're gonna do that NIST 600-1 Generative AI Profiles overview. I think they're coming out with an addendum pretty soon. Once again, artificial risk intelligence, generative AI, the profile. See it right there, the GenAI Profile. What's the purpose? This document provides risk management guidance tailored specifically for generative AI systems, building upon the broader NIST AI risk management framework, the RMF 100. That's one I usually use when I agree. Yeah, like they need to. I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan, but he needs to join a conference and stop complaining. Once again, I'm usually on the NIST AI RMF, which is 100. It is designed for federal agencies, government contractors, enterprise risk teams, AI product developers. My favorite, compliance and governance functions. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to kind of focus on today. I do a lot of third-party assessments, so I was just kind of figuring out and get comfortable when they have AI products, what does that look like? Most people know I'm a NIST 800-53 guy. So once again, how does that go into your security program, right? When you have AI. So right here, I like to start off with the governance, the overview of NIST RMF Framework 100. And we're going to get in there to more profiles. Then if you go to 700-2, it gets more into the technical section, more into the actual technical implementations of that. And one of my favorite ones I do is the OI LLM 10, the top 10 most risk and attacks are done from an LLM perspective. So that's kind of the three frameworks I use when I do third-party assessment and risk management for the AI piece. A lot of times when I work for bigger companies, they were just still putting their toe in the AI. had an AI committee, so they kind of did that from that perspective. I didn't really do a lot of third-party assessments on AI. It went up to the committee, and it was either they picked the product or they didn't, and them along with legal and more of an IT kind of acceptance part of that. One thing I always look for when I look at the special publications, which I love, is a lot of them are outdated. Shout out to this one. You see it right there. Came out July 2024. And they're already coming out with an amendment. You see it right there at the top. Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Generative AI Intelligence Profile. Once again, came out July 2024. That's the table of contents is short. So just kind of look at it, the overview of the risk. We're going to kind of tiptoe over a little bit right there, which is a little different than the otherwise top 10 LLM. Then we're going to talk about there's they use a NIST AI, and we're going to kind of look at a couple those security firms and how they're handling them inside this special publication. Move my big head out the way. So govern, shout out to NIST CSF. Boo, I'm 800 right now. Let's check it out. For the 1-4, the risk management process outcomes are established through a transparency. Once again, I left it on the management side. Transparent policies, procedures, and other control based on organizational risk priorities. If you look at this, the GV 1.4-001, and I picked this on purpose, establish policies and mechanisms to prevent your AI system from generating a CSM, NCI, or content that violates laws. The GI risk right there: obscene, degrading, and or abusive content, harmful biases, homogenization, dangerous violence, or hateful content. Shout out to my man Grok. They were generating inappropriate images, right? So they had to went in and put some guardrails around them. I think it was Grok. I just need to double check that before I put a bad word out of Grok. But one of the big LLMs were generating inappropriate content, right? So when you asked it to, right? So once again, they didn't have the guardrails, and they didn't go over the risk management profile to double check what they were generating out. I'm pretty sure it was Grok. The -002, establish a transparent, acceptable use policy for your AI that addresses illegal use or applications of that. CBRM information capabilities, once again, obscene, degrading, abusive content, data privacy, civil rights violation. So once again, what guardrails are you putting around it? And those are technical guidelines. We talk about policies and procedures. So if one of your employees does something wrong or it gets out of hand, you have the policies and procedures basically to fire them, right? And really, if they do something to hurt your company, basically you can sue them personally because you have policies and procedures that didn't go around. So you actually can you can sue them for restitutions if they did something with the AI that they should not have been doing. So once again, get your policies and procedures. And these are the things too we're going to talk about later. You walk through HR, you walk through your legal department, and sometimes you bring in your outside legal counsel to talk about if employee generates something or your code generates something, what's your legal liability if an employee does something wrong? And right, what's your part of your legal life? Does your cybersecurity insurance handle that if you personally get sued? Or if you do an LLM and you get a class action lawsuit, does your cybersecurity handle that? I would think not. A lot of times when I was doing my review on AI, they want you to do special writers for AI because it's hard to figure out what AI is doing. And two is if you do an AI and it gets hot, you might have 1 million people using your AI. So once again, you can easily get yourself in a class action lawsuit. So your insurance wants to know what their coverage is going to be and what's their highest out of pocket, right? And a lot of times with AI, that's kind of hard to figure out. Let's see. I think I had one more in there. We're going to hit through real quick. This is definitely the NIST 600-AI. Just cut it out. so you can see some things that are actually in that special publication. I love special publications because they help you drill down and get down deeper. As a senior guy, I try to get down into the nuances of that. So let's see, map 2.2, information about the AI system knowledge limits and how systems output may be utilized and overseen by a human is documented. Documentation provides sufficient information to assist relevant AI actors with making decisions and taking subsequent action. Once again, the MP 2.2001, identify and document how the system relies on upstream data sources, including content provenance, and if it serves as an upstream dependency for other systems. Information integrity, value change in a component. Observe and analyze how your AI system interacts with external networks, identifying potential negative externalities, particularly where content provenance may be compromised. We always talk about prompt injection, prompt poisoning, sending bad data to that, right? And this is documenting how do you technology-wise make that not happen, right? From AWS, you check your data into a S3 bucket, you lock it up, you put it in compliance, nobody can change it. You can version it, you can roll it back if it starts hallucinating with different documentation. So you can have your configuration management gold image for AI. Those are some of the things we need to start thinking about from a documentation point and kind of how we start handling those particular things. Once again, put any questions, cybersecurity or tech in the chat. Just kind of going through, once again, getting my AI skills up, and how, once again, in the future, how I'm going to handle those particular AI third-party risk assessments. Once again, why this document exists. AI RMF 1.0 defines risk concepts and processes for all types of AI. The GenAI Profile, the 600, zooms in specifically, we saw that in the table of contents. Risks unique to generative AI, such as output misuse. Shout out to my man Chris. He always talking about hallucinations, prompt injections, data leakage, model sharing, misalignment with policies, and help organization translate RMF into a generative AI specific action. Right. So once again, the RMF 100 defines your risk and concept from a strategic level. AI is talking about specifically what are we going to do from that strategic level down to that implementation level. And I always joke, nobody's ever hacked the policies and procedures. So what controls are we putting in place so these things don't happen? Even from an AI perspective. Where does this fit in with the NIST? Once again, AI RMF 100, overall AI governance and risk framework. We're specifically talking about the GenAI profile, risk profile for generative AI. The RMF playbook, I think I got a video on that. Practical implementation guidelines, technical standards and federation API metrics, what tooling and measurements. So once again, these are the documents we're going to use to, once again, document a federal system, help with our third-party assessments. If you're doing CMMC, HIPAA, high trust from an AI perspective, those are the things you're going to need to put together to do documentation for your assessors. When they come and ask for particular documentation, these are the documents we're going to give the assessors. Of course, concepts of the GenAI profile. Define risk in terms of likelihood of negative outcome. Impact of organizational objectives. What are your key GenAI risks? Once again, hallucinations. Intellectual property leakage. What stuff are you uploading to your AI that it's going to spit out to other people or other people can query it? Right? Bias and unfairness. Data poisoning and misuse by bad actors. We know the Chinese took LLM and actually used it to attack corporate companies and a couple of government agencies. Now, the big LLM caught them trying to use it, but once again, the bad actors did use it and try to do a red team attack. Let me back up. They did do a red team attack on that. particular government agency and a few private corporations. Generative AI system characterizations. To manage risk, you must first understand the systems. Once again, model type, are using LLM, diffusion, multi. What's your training data sources? What's your deployment context? What's my favorite? Human in the loop. Because once the AI does it, you need to have human verifications at certain parts inside your workflow. Right. Interfaces, APIs, and user prompts. So once again, when you talk about AI, we need to talk about workflow. What does it look like, and how are we using it? Right. The two is what particular profile are we using in our particular AI systems. The profile uses the same four core functions in the AI RMF. We to the govern piece. When we were looking at our screenshots from the special publication, we looked at one that was particularly for governing. So here's the governing piece: establishing policies, assign roles and responsibilities, ethical principles, set compliance requirements. Some example of output: generative AI governance policy, risk committees, and your audit program. Right. And I think when we talk about program, I always talk about it from really a security program, which will include your GRC inside there. Inside your GRC, a lot of times it's going to be your audit program. Once again, that's what we're going to give to an assessment in our sessions when they come and assess our security program in our AI sections. The map piece, we did look at a couple requirements from the map. Identify where generative AI is used. Assess the threat landscape. Catalog risk and risk owners. Part of your output is your risk register for your Gen AI. Use case inventory and exposure of your mapping. A lot of times we talked about this is the OWASP LLM top 10 is a good place to really start for your risk register. There are 10 of the high level AI risks that are out there. Then they tell you really how to block those risks and what technologies you can do. Once again, prompt injection, prompt poisoning, what words you should look out for before you actually send your prompt to your LLM. Right, but that's going to lay off your top 10, which really will start off with your risk register. Measure, define metrics and threshold for risk. Use test data sets and evaluation criteria. Track performance over time. Once example, what's your hallucination rate? What's your output safety score and your bias measurement results? So when you really get into artificial intelligence and machine learning, these rates and scores come out as part of your artificial intelligence. Once again, your machine learning, those are built in a lot of times to those tools. And a lot of people know I do AWS. They have some called SageMaker and Bedrock. These scores are automatically built in there depending on how you build your model, right? So you can talk about bias and if the model thinks it's hallucinating. And once again, you can have safety scores. And at the end, we're going to talk about compliance GRC. What kind of dashboards can we build to come up with some of these examples of what's your hallucination rate? What's your output safety? Once again, what's your bias measurements? Because we know executives love dashboards. We got to give everybody a couple dashboards to make sure everybody's happy. Manage, implement risk controls, monitor continuously, adjust based on incident and metrics. Once again, prompt filtering, output verification layers, aka guardrails, incident response playbook. I got a couple slides on the playbook. I usually do incident response for agencies when I'm a consultant. I just never done one specifically for AI, so I'm coming up with an AI incident response exercise. And after exercise, we're going to create a playbook. Right? It'd be, something simple. Make sure we got the forms. Unique aspects of generative AI for your human interactions. Unlike traditional models, generative AI generates novel responses, require real-time prompts, can adapt to user input. This makes risk dynamic. And that's what I can't sleep at night, right? When your risk is dynamic because the model changed, the model drifted, somebody put additional um, criteria in the model, added critical new functionality, but they didn't test it right or they didn't give it guardrails right. So that's dynamic risk. You don't even understand it's GRC, right? Because once again, it's unique and dynamic to what your model's building. Now, when I harden a database, I don't care what's in the database. Well, let me back that up. Depending on the classification of data in the database, I'm just going to harden it at that classification. I don't worry it have to be dynamic, right? It's like, okay, I got encryption, I got authentication, I got some keys. I'm making sure if somebody logs in from a home network, they got to go through MFA. If they VPN, I'm still going to make them do MFA. Shout out to me. Now, but once again, I can put stringent security levels. When you're talking about dynamic output and verbiage coming out of a vector database, some kind of database, right? Once again, that risk is dynamic. All right. So I'm used to this is my infrastructure, this is my web server, this is my app server. So I know how to harden that. We're using Apache, we're using IIS, we're using Oracle, we're using AWS, we're using Azure. These are the things hardened. These are the 3,000 checks I need to be in. So I know we're good. With AI, it's kind of like, ooh, what is that? Output reliability document emphasizing that correctness is not guaranteed. Verification and validation are essential. Logging and traceability matters. So we always call it traceability matrix in the old days. So how do you trace that back? So if PBO puts a prompt in and it goes and it's my output, how do I trace that back to me? How do I trace it back to these scanned documents that read out the library that caused this output? Right. So if I update these documents, the output might change. Then once again, that second point, correctness is not guaranteed, which is crazy if we're talking about somebody's health. Financial portfolio, not correct. We might be okay. You're talking about people's health. So once again, from an AI perspective, what would that look like? Once again, let's see. There's somebody. Oh, once again, drop in your questions. AI or cybersecurity or GRC. Once again, we're going to start digging a little deeper in AI in 2026. I got to get a little better at that. I feel pretty comfortable because I've been doing 53 forever, 171 forever. So just adding specifically the AI component, and a lot of times people don't realize you're hardening the infrastructure before you really send it to AI to start training. So all of those techniques, hardening, schisms, stigs, all that really stays intact because the last part of that really is training the AI data, which basically is a new functionality to the system. Deployment contacts, embedded chatbots, used behind API for research, integrated in the enterprise workflow. This affects your attack surface, your control requirements, and your monitoring strategies. Yeah, what are you monitoring? Prompts output? Are you getting thousands and billions of? So where are you putting them at? Are you feeding those back into AI to help AI figure out if something's going wrong? So once again, how are you auditing those back? Once again, from a deployment context. Risk measures and matrix, quantifiable metrics, operational threshold. What's your feedback loops? These metrics feed into enterprise dashboards. We was talking about those dashboard earlier. What would they look like? Metric hallucination frequency, rate of incorrect responses, safety score, likelihood of harmful output, bias index, disparity across demographic groups. So once again, those are three metrics we probably want to put on, like I said, your risk dashboard. So a lot of people say, what am I looking for? You look for these three things right here. Put them on the dashboard. Yeah, but realistically, those are coming. You got to work with the AI engineers and the AI groups, because from a GRC perspective, you're not going to have those numbers. A lot of times I tell people, GRC, you got to work with the technical staff. I'm not going to harden the Oracle database, even though I can. I have those type of skills, but I don't own the Oracle database, so I don't want to harden it. The guys that own it owns those encryption keys, own those SQLnet. Once again, changing it to only accept encrypted data, right? So those 300 checks are owned by the DBAs. Once again, the web admins, the OS guys, the cloud infrastructure guys, they actually own those particular checks. Now I got to validate and give them those requirements, but they actually own the checks. Implementation output artifacts. When you apply the GenAI profile, you should produce risk register. We were talking about that earlier. Use case inventory, governance policy, control catalogs, measurement definitions, monitoring dashboard. We were talking about that. An incident response playbook. Once again, I do a lot of incident response exercises. I just never know what frame. So I was thinking about what that's going to be and what's that going to look like. Once again, us as GRC, a lot of times we run those exercises. Or if not, I'm in there overseeing them, right? Because once again, from an auditing standpoint, the auditors usually ask for our incident response exercise and our incident response playbook. So this incident response exercise runs these particular part of playbook, right? If somebody does password stuffing, meaning they're trying to brute force our passwords, are we looking at the rate of those encounters? If somebody tried to send 100 password changes in a minute, that's a bot. You should block them, right? If somebody using these known password combinations that comes from the dark web or these particular IPs, we know to block them, right? So these particular incident response exercises go to these particular things in the playbook because these are the things we're going to run, or these are the things our engineers are going to run when they see that particular TTP. Shout out to Miter. Well, my LinkedIn user said, thanks. Very helpful specifics. Will these slides be available at the section I need to drop? No, that's fine. Just ping me on LinkedIn and I'll send you the slides. I need to find somewhere to make those available. I don't have a Discord yet. If you want them, just ping me on LinkedIn. Most people here on Discord know me, so you can ping me if you want the slides. PBO is very nice. He gives out slides. Shout out to me. For those who know, I taught 10 years at a community college. Cybersecurity. So I'm always doing slides. I think that's an old man issue. GenAI profile lines with, once again, my favorite, FedRAMP and the FISMA. Shout out to NIST 800-53. Boo, ISO and IC 4201. Now for the AI management, shout out to my man Cam. I know he's really digging into the ISO. Probably do some joint videos in the future. IEEE P700 series. I need to look into that. The ethical AI. My favorite, I've done a video on that. The OWASP GenAI Top 10 for your risk. This makes sure it's useful across cybersecurity, AI ethics, compliance, and architecture. I usually focus on compliance and really cybersecurity. I can architect, but I usually don't. Shout out to me. I usually don't. Practical use cases, and we're going to look at one for developers. Use the profile to design safe model behavior and integrate controls into the SDLC. System development lifecycle. I programmed for a decade. I actually miss programming. For security teams, map GenAI risk to threat models, embedding monitoring and alerts. My favorite part for GRC, we were talking about building risk dashboards, providing evidence for risk assessment, aka your assessments, demonstrate continuous monitor. For your leadership, your C-suite, quantify AI risk exposure, prioritize mitigation based on business impact, right? So we talked about BIA, business impact analysis. So we know what business functions are using AI and what these 10 OWASP things will affect certain business functions. And depending on the ranking of the business function, tells you how to prioritize that particular risk register and that particular threat model. Once again, summary: tailor AI RMF to generative AI, define risk and metrics, guidance and governance mapping, measurements and management. My favorite one: produce artifacts for risk compliance professionals need, applicable to federal enterprise and regulated environments. Once again, so us as GRC, we're producing those artifacts for risk compliance and professional need. So once again, we're going to do a not tonight, but in the future, do a it's the response exercise for AI. Probably shout out to NIST 170. I'm sorry, NIST 161. I think it's incident response. So we're gonna get to it. So once again, your requirements: the AI we were just looking at RMF map 2.2, your inventory dependency dashboard. My favorite one, FedRAMP and NIST SA9, external system inventory. SI7, integrity monitoring visuals. CA7, continuous telemetry, which, we're logging. We got our CloudWatch, our APIs. There's a ton of logging. Fill it, send it out to Splunk. Once again, the RMF PLA, information flow documentation. We always have our data flow document, especially with AI, because we're sending data. A lot of times they're corporate documentation. So we used to call them, where's the gold copy we're going to send to the AI? Stuff we know has been validated, version checked, and it's ready to be trained upon. Right? We don't want to send. So where is that segment of documentation on our network? And two is who has access to it, right? From a risk management perspective and privilege perspective. Once again, who has access to it? So once again, most people know I use AWS. So this is just kind of a high level dashboard we would create. So our AWS implementation is API gateway to Bedrock. Bedrock is AWS's LLM model. You can pick your external LLM and bring it into Bedrock. Why would you want to do that? It gives you guardrails and infrastructure and security governance around what AI model you particularly use. So I think AWS is, we don't have an LLM, but we're going to give you the infrastructure governance and security to run around that. And we're going to do some videos on that in the future. So we have our required documentation, our static evidence, and our object store, which is the X3 bucket. We're going to version and object lock it. We're going to have our AI system data flow diagrams in there. We're going to have an upstream dependency register, a Bedrock model ID and version. We talked about our guardrails enabled. Hopefully it's yes. We're going to have external APIs because we're sending data, getting data to train for, getting data in a workflow. Our external data sources inside our company, we're going to have S3 buckets, relational data stores, relational searches, because once again, you're going to have data inside your company that you're going to want to send to the model. And at the top, once again, is we need to document that in our data flow diagram so we kind of know what's going on. Model limitation statement: no real-time knowledge unless tools enabled. What's your hallucination risk? What's your non-authoritative sources that you're sending to it? Once again, we need to have our documentation. They call it a model card. So this model card, these are the things we're describing in there. And these are the things our assessors are going to ask us for. One of our, you see it right there, QuickSight is their BI, their power builder inside AWS. So our visual dashboard, visual table, we were looking at the table information. From our model card, these are the columns we're going to put inside our QuickSight so we can generate these dashboards and report. So we're going to have a system name, model ID, model version, upstream data source. We talked about that. External dependency, yes or no. Contents provenance document, yes or no. Last review date, conditional format. Read if the external dependency equals yes and content provenance document equals no. We want to give the executives color. They love to see that red. Once again, we're going to control mapping in the RMF map 2.2 and our FedRAMP SA9, SA12, and PL8. A quick couple things about incident response. Once again, I do incident response exercises. I should have did a better job on the slide, but let's kind of rip through it. Incident disclosure overview. AI incidents can be defined as an event, circumstance, or series of events where the development, use, or malfunction of one or more AI systems directly or indirectly contributes to one of the following harms: injury, harm the health of a person, group of people. This one threw me off, including psychological harms, harms to mental health, disruption of management and operation of critical infrastructure, violation of human rights, breach of obligation under the application law intended to protect fundamental labor and intellectual property rights, or harm to property, communities, or environments. AI incidents can occur in an aggregate for systematic discrimination or actually for one individual person. So we probably do one where it was the Canada Airlines where it told a customer you can get a bereavement discount. Then at the end, it told the guy no. So you got a lot of reputational harm. So in there, we would say we got an incident. It came out and said bereavement, but it gave them a bereavement discount with a dollar amount. We don't give dollar amounts through AI. They got to go through a human, right? So if we see a dollar amount, we need to send them over to a human in the middle to validate that. Once again, what's your company and how do you want to handle AI? I always start off with, we doing money, that needs to be okay by a human, right? So once again, instant response, dollar amount came over, didn't go to a human, and now we have a ticket there where somebody was supposed to get $1,000 off. Right, state of AI incident tracking disclosure. Formal channels do not currently exist to report and document AI incidents. So let's talk about what's the formal or non-formal channels to do that. See my round two, got a call today. Okay, let me know if you need anything from me. Good luck. Hard out here. However, a number of publicly available databases have been created to document their occurrence. These reporting channels can make decisions for an ad hoc basis about what kind of incidents to track. Some, for example, track by amount of media coverage. Documenting, reporting, and sharing information about AI incidents can help mitigate and prevent harmful outcomes by assisting relevant AI actors in tracing impacts to their systems. Greater awareness and standardization of incident reporting could promote their transparency and improve risk management across the AI ecosystem. PBO violently disagrees with this. I should tell my boss, we're not snitching on ourselves to say we having issues and put them in a public database. We're not doing that. Long story short, if you're a government entity and certain incidents happen, you're supposed to report yourself to Department of Homeland Security. I said, we're not doing that. Shout out. We're not stitching on ourselves. But once again, internally, how are you tracking these things? How are you putting a number for risk for your organization, right? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a certain level of dollar amount? Is it certain? We talked about business impact analysis. The certain businesses that has AI workflows to certain business function have a higher risk, right? And answer probably to that's going to be yes. Once again, I used to work for a tax office as a consultant. Anything that deal with collecting taxes was high priority. All right, so we done AI puts out some wrong tax information, that would be high priority, right? Because that's our number one system. We reported to the IRS from our federal clients. So if anything happened, we had to federally report ourselves once again to the IRS. So anything with tax would be high priority from a business function. Once again, we won. Shout out to us. I think that's all I had. I think that's all I want to hit. I'm gonna hang out a little bit. I'll shout out to my man AB. But once again, I'm gonna create a AI playlist. I need to clean up my YouTube site. I got a few older things. I have a killer Security Plus, but it's about 5 years old now, so I'm gonna delete that and start an AI playlist in there. I think I got 5 AI specific GRC videos. So I think that's what I'm gonna start building for my playlist. I always joke I got more NIST videos than NIST. I put obviously this is a NIST video. I think I got 100 hours of NIST videos. If anyone's super bored, that's really what my channel was based on. This, been doing this forever. So one of my favorite, the favorite compliance, not the my one of my. That's my the favorite, as in the only one, the love of my life. NIST 800-53. Once again, drop any questions, cybersecurity, or that in the chat. Those are the. I think I need to do. Once again, the AI 100 is the overview. We specifically talking about the 601, which is the risk profile, which gets a little more detail. The playbooks talk about practical implementation for those guidance, right? The Gen AI we're talking about is talking about the specific AI issues, the specific AI risk. This talks about what are you going to implement to handle that risk. Then two is what technical standards are you using to help you with that risk. Once again, because usually you put those this special publications together. Once again, those that map we were talking about, map 2.2, and I think we got our gen. Those are really based on the NIST CSF. Those were the specific, unique two, or exacerbated by generative AI. Those are the specific attacks that we're talking about. Information integrity, security, property. We really got into the obscene, degrading, and abusive content value chain. Once again, security-wise from your infrastructure, how do you want to handle that? Once again, drop any questions, cybersecurity in the chat. Just something I wanted to hit. That's the specific special publication we were digging into today. I like it because it's came out on July 2024. We see a lot of them that are 10 years old, right? Specifically like the, once again, 2024. Once again, the overview of the document, which we saw. Once again, I'm gonna hang out longer. If anybody has any specific questions, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. We're coming out Thursday with. We're doing Thursday's gonna be geofencing. Google, people don't realize Google, if somebody's looking for a particular Google phone in this particular area and you're at the mall and they're tracking a bad guy, they take everybody's phone information within a mile radius. It could be 1,000 people in there. Your information is coming up in a search warrant. It's called geofencing. So the Supreme Court is relooking at it because a lot of people are ending up in the information was ending up in search warrants because of geofencing. Shout out to Google. They start pushing back, and I think they're going to do geofencing a little different to make it harder for everybody to information gets wrapped up when they're looking for one person. So yeah, we're going to talk about geofencing. Once again, that's it's a privacy standpoint, and I'm always talking about government oversight and government overreach. So I think for me, geofencing is part of that conversation. I have a few things that bother me. That's one of them. Oversight and overreach. Those taking your data, those tapping your phones, tapping your emails. How that work? You know, we did the video where the license plate reader now is adding AI to it, right? So besides just tracking your license plate, it's really a dragnet across the whole United States. And I think it said 40% of the sheriffs and law enforcement were signed up for that particular service. So what does that mean? Once again, from government oversight and overreach. Once again, one PBO pet peeves and pet projects. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Privacy is my game. Back. So we're going to join us if you're available, Kiki and James. I know you're a busy man, but we're going Eastern time noon. So we're going to just dip our toe into it. Definitely on the privacy. I think that is an overreach. So hopefully the Supreme Court's going to roll that back a little bit. But we're going to see. We're going to see. We don't want to hamstring law enforcement too bad. We want them to get the bad guy, but why are you looking at my information while you trying to get the bad guy? Right? So that's kind of my issue for it. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. I think PBO gonna lay down and take a little nap. I think he stayed up too late watching the game. Let me put up my last little thing before we shut it on down. There we go. This AI 600 generative. Who's yours? IU. Once again, I'll hang out a little longer, drop a few questions, and I'll hang out about 5 minutes, see if anybody asks or wants to ask anything. If anybody wants to come up, I'll drop the link. No pressure. PBO is a very nice guy in the third person. I'm a very nice guy. I'm a very nice guy. I appreciate you, Kiki. Yeah, we're going to touch our toe in there. Since PBO is officially laid off, he's doing a few more streams. Shout out to me, got a little more time. So been putting a little more work in there. And Friday, we're going to do, which I do probably every other year, is Super Bowl cybersecurity. We're going to talk about them. If you fly a drone, we're going to knock your drone out the air. Try to poison the water. We working with the water team. We working with the Department of Homeland, working with ICE, working with TSA, working with local police. We got our drones flying over everywhere. So what is security for the Super Bowl gonna look like from a cybersecurity? It's really like 10 different Department of Homeland is leading the pack, but it's like 10 different other agencies, right? Because you're talking about water, flow, special forces. They got Marines on deck. So what does that look like when you roll that out every year? I mean, they got it down to a science, but we're gonna definitely look at it. Definitely look at some videos once again from a physical security standpoint. I always kind of forget that. I always think of the technical, the security. Now, if you do something crazy, we're gonna take you out. We got snipers on buildings. We got people ready to roll up. Right, so we got about 500 people at our disposal. We got 500 people just co-mingling. Right. Well, so what does that look like from a physical standpoint? Once again, I'm usually on the cyber side, but when you do a event of that magnitude, similar to the NCAA championship, once again, what level of federal oversight and federal security, and once again, what things are they looking for to secure you, us, and everybody else in that arena? They call it SEER. SEER level 1 means that's an international event that will cause you international chaos if somebody attacked it. So what level of priority are we? I'm saying we like I'm in it, right? The United States government gives the Super Bowl. It's a SEER tier 1, meaning we're a big dog and we can't be embarrassed on national TV. By the way, whoever does it, we put boots to ground if it's another country, so they don't play in that area. Once again, put any questions, cybersecurity or tech in the chat. Shout out to my man. I want to congratulate him early, but not too early. My man Fern, good luck on that. If you need me, just ping me. I appreciate you, Jeffrey Johnson. I appreciate you. I almost went there to college too. I went to Indiana State. It was a lot easier to get into. Shout out to IU. They were gonna they invited me to walk on for track. That was interesting in my younger days. So my track coach was cool with IU's track coach. So they were gonna let me walk on, even though my time wasn't quite there where I needed to be. He said I had a little potential, so he was gonna let me walk on. I said, y'all got 40 All-Americans. I'm not coming. I'm not coming. And PBO came through a 300-seat lecture hall. That doesn't work well for PBO. So PBO wasn't going to the 30,000 students of IU in an Indiana University. Once again, I appreciate everybody for joining me. Ping me if you need me. I need to get caught up on my email. I've been a little behind. Just trying to get some few things in order. PBO is always a little disheveled in life, but it's all good. It's all good. Once again, I appreciate everybody for joining me. I'm out.